This episode is brought to you by Alpine Hardwood Flooring. They've been our partner now for over a decade, installing all our wood floors on all our new homes as well as our remodels. And on a personal level, Adam and Anthony Jankola, the owners, are just absolutely amazing people. They've been so supportive of my career as well as doing anything we need to make sure that our clients are happy. And they work so well with our other vendors and trade partners at not only protecting their product, but also ensuring everyone else's looks great. So if you're looking for a wood floor or for a refinish, I highly recommend Alpine Hardwood Flooring.
We're excited to announce that our first live event is now on sale on our website. On May 16th at 5 o'clock in the North House in Minneapolis, the Curious Builder is going to be hosting Brad Levitt, Nick Schiffer, Tyler Grace, and Morgan Molitor to a panel discussion about networking, marketing your brand and your business, and all things related to the Contractor Coalition, which is coming to Minneapolis on May 15th through May 19th. If you're looking at leveling up your business, I'd highly recommend attending. For those local here in Minnesota, it's right in your backyard. This would be an amazing time to network with some of the nation's best builders with the best building practices around. Join us for the Contractor Coalition, or if you just want to be there for one night and enjoy the networking and meet these superstars from around the country, again, that is going to be May 16th at 5 o'clock at the North House. Tickets can be bought at the contractorcoalitionsummit.com as well as the curiousbuilderpodcast.com.
I would say over 90% of our business is referrals.
90%.
Yep, for sure.
Wow.
It goes back to that take care of your clients and they'll take care of you, right? It's what I always say. And we give the clients a good process. Like you said earlier, it's not always perfect. We're building homes with human hands, but you know, we give them the best process possible, and we take care of them after their home is done, and we're there for them. And that spreads, right? They tell their family members, their colleagues, their business partners about us. And then when it comes time for them to build, they usually call us.
Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today, I am joined with the whole family of John Kraemer Sons. I've got Gary, John, and Jeff. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Hey, good to see you.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
You're welcome. Minnesota, you guys need very little introduction because you guys have a powerhouse brand and you guys build amazing homes that are usually on the front and back of every magazine in the state. But for those that are listening outside the Minnesota area, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive a little into your history before we get into kind of the fun stuff.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, any of us can really take that, but I guess I'll start. We've been in business for 46 years. Dad and his dad, our grandpa John, started the company together back in April of 1978 when Dad was just 20 years old. And 46 years later, we specialize in high-end luxury custom home building and remodeling. And we're a family business. We're really proud of that. And, Jeff and I have families too, and we hope that the family business will carry on for another 46 years in the future.
When you first started, Gary, so you're 20, like why building? Like how did that become the thing that you were going to do?
It's just all I ever knew. My dad was a custom home builder, and then probably about 1965, I was about 7 years old, and he switched over to just subcontracting carpentry labor to other builders and wasn't super satisfied with that. And, my dad had an 8th grade education. He insisted that all of his children go to college. So I went to Normandale, which is a junior college. It's a nice, respectable junior college, but it's not Harvard. And so I went there for 2 years to make him happy. Then I registered to go another 2 years at Augsburg College here in Minneapolis. And actually the night before I was supposed to go to my first classes, I was a 20-year-old, and I said, Dad, I'm not going to do this. We had talked about starting a business. Let's do this. And he argued with me and pushed back, and I was unrelenting. And that's how we got started.
Were you interested in the lifestyle, in doing your own thing? Like you had an interest in home building? Like everyone kind of has a different story. I'm always kind of interested to see how it compares to mine, because everyone has their own story, so they relate it to themselves. Like what was it about home building, or that was just you were piggybacking on something that your dad had already done and they're like, hey, let's do a business together, and so it's home building? Or was it specifically like you knew you wanted to be in construction?
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to be a home builder, and primarily in construction. When we started the business in 1978, I thought I'll be a carpenter my entire life, and our only goal was let's stay busy. The early years of the business were not great. The Jimmy Carter years right through there, and the economy wasn't good. And
Was that the 18-20% interest rates?
Yeah.
We had my dad, David, you guys are similar ages, and I know you guys know each other. He was on, and he talked about taking like boats and trailers and anything on trade because people couldn't afford, those high interest rates for a down payment.
Yeah.
But you could also build a house a lot quicker. One of the things I have for you for a question before we get too far down is like the evolution. Like people see who you guys are today, and there's amazingly detailed, architect-driven homes that you guys are a part of. I assume you didn't start there. What was that evolution like, through the decades?
Yeah, I mean, the very early years, our first probably 20 jobs were very nasty bathroom remodel jobs on older homes in North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis. Nothing real pretty, just some things we got from friends in the industry, plumbers that we knew and people like that got us work, and built our first home probably, I guess it was maybe late 79, early 80, somewhere in there, and built it as a spec house. I think it was about an $85,000 tuck under split entry, and my dad and I did all the framing, all the carpentry on the whole thing, which we did for many years. Did all of that ourselves, and I was happy. That's all I ever really wanted to do. There was no grand plan to be the John Kraemer Sons we are now. At
what point, because I'm guessing you were born, mid-80s, John?
83. So I just turned 40 a few months ago.
Okay. Happy belated birthday,
Thank
buddy.
you, Mark. Appreciate it.
At what point, like being kids, you and Jeff, you're probably late 30s? 37. So, at what point did you guys kind of looking on, I assume now that I have little kids, I have 7, 5, and 3, none of them really know all that much. Like at what age did it start dawning on you that, hey, my dad and my grandpa have something kind of cool. We want to be a part of it, or we don't want to be a part of it?
Well, I think Jeff and I have two very different stories. You can kind of tell yours if you'd like, or
yeah,
I can start. Yeah.
So similar to my dad, I've always been interested in construction. So even from the very tiny ages of 2, 3, 4, 5, I was always the one building things, Legos, erector sets, anything I could get my hands on,
or take apart.
Yeah. So to me, construction was always sort of ingrained in me, and it's always what I wanted to do. And probably when I was the age of 14, 15, maybe, started working on the field in the summers, just cleaning, sweeping, doing the labor type tasks. And eventually that led into framing and trim carpentry, and learn all the different skill type trades like that. Not a ton of experience, but enough to like understand how you work through those different parts of the business. And growing up every weekend, we'd be going out to construction sites and walking the sites, and I just loved being a part of it. Took that to when I went to college. I went to Mankato, Minnesota State, Mankato, and got my bachelor's degree in construction management. And then I graduated in 2009 during the really great economy of 2009.
Great timing.
Yeah. And so couldn't find a job out of college, or couldn't find an internship out of college that I needed to kind of finish that degree, and ended up interning with Kraemer Sons, and been there ever since.
He actually did find one in Boston. He just didn't want to go.
That's funny. And how about you, John? What was your childhood experience seeing kind of the building that was happening?
Yeah, so I was always fascinated by the business, the industry. Like Jeff, grew up pushing a broom, working on job sites during summers and stuff like that. But yeah, he was the one, putting together 2,000-piece 3D puzzles when he was like 5 years old, and all that stuff. And I was just I've always been more business oriented, entrepreneurial. I kind of always knew I wanted to run a business of some sort. Was always fascinated with construction, but didn't always know what I wanted to do. And, in high school, like I competed in DECA and BPA, which is sales and marketing competition basically, and went to state and nationals and stuff for that. And took all the business and entrepreneurship and business classes, and then went to Gustavus Adolphus College for undergrad, where I studied communication studies and business.
Communication degree, baby.
Yeah, baby. Minored in business.
Business for guys that aren't good at math. Is that
Yeah, I mean, I was communication and business. Oddly enough, it's like now with the podcast, it's like, oh, hey, this communication degree. Although I'm not sure it did anything. I mean, I don't think talking is necessarily something I guess you can learn a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, communication degree, and was one credit short of double majoring in business, and it was because I didn't want to take calculus. So if I took calculus and passed it, I would have had a double major, but decided not to do that. So yeah, just always knew that I wanted to do something in business. The rule in our family, I'm the oldest, but our rule was that you had to go work somewhere else for 2 years if you wanted to be in the family business. So this predates Jeff. We hired him right away, but so I after college, I graduated from Gustavus, was engaged to my wife. I was a marketing director at a bank in Edina for 2 years, and in 2008, economy was just booming in 2008. I think we all know what happened during 2008, and we had like 2 or 3 houses under construction or something like that, and said, "Hey, I'm ready for you to come on over if you're ready," and gave it some thought and decided to come on over. So I've been doing it full time now for 16 years. And it's been absolutely fantastic.
I have to imagine that. So it was the end of 2008. I remember because I had my first huge spec home timed out in October of 2008, and obviously November and all that kind of that collapse. But one of the benefits, looking back now, at the time, you're a young man, you don't think it's a benefit, right? You're just trying to struggle. But I have to imagine, too, one of the things that we all fight in being a multi-generational builder is the perception like, oh, people tell me all the time, I assume this has happened to you, where people are like, oh, you just got your dad's company. Oh, you just inherited. Like, I hear that all the time, right?
Nepotism.
The story is totally different. I won't go into my story now on this one, but how, because I'm sure any family business gets that. And from a parent's point of view, I'll get to Gary in a minute because I'm kind of curious some of his insight as he's raising you, because there'd be some trepidation about even having your kids come in. Like, how do you balance it, pros and cons, that kind of thing. But how have you sort of, I guess where I'm going with this is like, being that 2008 is when you started, 2009 is for Jeff, like you guys, we collectively navigated the worst downturn in building in pretty much the history of the US. Do you feel like that experience now in retrospect has taught you a lot of lessons that you're able to apply now? And how often do you draw on the things that you learned then, even today in running your business?
That's a question for these guys.
Anybody.
Well, we started in 2000. I started in 2008. Jeff was 2009. So yeah, we saw the worst economy we've seen in our careers. So really, to a certain extent, we've only seen growth throughout our entire career, which is very interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's I'm trying to think of things that we could take from those slower times. You know, we worked really hard to get projects. You know, it was good for us. One thing I kind of learned about that, we've been in business now for 46 years. Back then we had been in business for, what would that be? 30 years, if I'm doing the math right. Not a big math guy.
Yeah, no calculus.
But I mean, we stayed relatively busy during those times because we had a solid brand and because we had been in business for a while and people knew we were a safe bet. There's in really good economic times, it's like everybody with a hammer thinks they can build a house. And you know, during those times, people were going with builders that were tried and true and had a good reputation for quality and taking care of their clients and were financially stable. And so that really actually helped our company and really helped us come out of the recession in growth mode. One other thing I kind of learned, and have learned this with my marketing and business background, but when times are tough, you got to keep your name out there, right? I think when times get tough, when the economy gets bad, people cut marketing right away. It's one of the first things they cut. And we were actually out there building our website, running ads in magazines, getting our brand up and running on social media. And networking with architects and stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess that's what I have to say about that.
One thing I would say I learned from the '09 years early on was just how to compete for work, because back then it was much more, very often we were competitively bidding projects, competitively bidding in interviews, and learning how to, really dial in those budgets and make sure everything's there, but you're still being as competitive as possible was a huge, time of learning during that period for sure. So, and to your question kind of on how John and I have handled growing up in the family business and that sort of perception is, I think one thing that's kind of cool about going through that 2009 period is, Kraemer Sons had always been, I think, a smaller business all the way through, still doing these big luxury homes, but just a handful of projects every year. And I think one of the benefits that John and I and my dad were able to realize is, as we came out of 2009, that's when we were able to really expand and grow the business, and we all did that together as a team.
That's really cool.
And so that, I think, has been able to at least insulate John and I a little bit from the perception of, just kind of jumped into the family business,
well,
right?
And I only bring it up because I face it all the time when people don't know about, mainly it's not really usually people in construction, it's people on the outside, or you get this all this time, like, being an entrepreneur is great. Doesn't mean it's easy. And not everyone should do it. I mean, it's really hard. Sometimes I wonder why I do it. But the point of it is like, it is scrappy, it's hard work. And I think sometimes when people have a dream and maybe don't do it, and then they maybe see somebody else that does, I just think it's a lack of awareness of really understanding what it takes to create a business and to sustain a business. I mean, you hear these crazy stats, right? Like, I don't even know them, but the percentage of second generation businesses that failed, third generations. I mean, it just keeps getting into the smaller and smaller numbers because its longevity is really hard. And so I really appreciate your answer, Jeff, because I think that really speaks to, I mean, obviously you took a huge growth step and you gobbled up a ton of market share. From your point of view, Gary, what was it like? I'm framing this question from my point of view. Like, I, unlike John and Jeff, like, I don't want my kids to get into building because I don't want to be building in my 70s. I got married a little later, and so I'm 43, but my kids are still pretty young. So it's like, man, I have to be in my 70s. Like, building it can be a grind. I love what I do, but like at some point, I don't want to do that every day. And my daughter would be an amazing owner, and we do need more women in construction for sure. So she'd be great, and I'll do whatever I can to support her. But like, honestly, like, I really hope I'll let them do whatever they love, but I really hope they don't love building. I guess. Well,
Yeah.
How did you handle that? Like, being, in a company with your dad, was it something you really wanted to continue, or did you kind of have similar trepidation where you're like, man, if they get into building, what if it doesn't work out? How did you navigate that as a dad?
I grew up with my father saying, you need to do something else, right? You don't want to come into construction. You need to be a doctor, a lawyer, an educated person, and do those kind of things. This is hard work. It's dirty work. You lose money from time to time. We all know those kind of stories, but I never listened to them, fortunately. So when the shoe is on the other foot and I'm the dad, I really neither encourage them or discourage them. I was always, if I knew Jeff was going to be a builder when he was 2.
Right. It sounds like
right?
it.
And there'd be no stopping him.
Or in the demo. I mean, it sounds like you can take apart stuff pretty good too.
There'd be no stopping him at that point. And John, I knew, was going to be a great entrepreneur of some sort, whether that was with us or, so John came around to, this is what I want to do. And he had a passion for business. He had a passion for this business. Jeff had a passion for construction. And, not to overuse the word, but I've had a passion for doing this my whole life. And I honestly don't feel like I've ever worked a day in my life. So my goal is always to work until I'm 70, because that'll be a 50-year career. That'd be the 50th year of John Kraemer Sons. And there's days I think I'm not going to make it to 50 because I don't want to. And there's days I think I won't be able to stop, so we'll see what happens, right? Every day is a new experience. But the one thing, about you were speaking earlier about the nepotism thing is I face some of that, right? Oh, you're taking over your dad's business. And I know these guys heard some of that stuff too. It just was never true. When they both came into the business in '08 when John came in. I think it was around '06 or '07. We've got the article somewhere at the office.
Yeah.
Where Minneapolis St. Paul said John Kraemer Sons, the best builder you've never heard of.
Yeah, it was Twin City Business Magazine.
And
Do you ever hold it over them when you do some
2000
negotiating for ad rates?
2007, I think it was.
And John clamped onto that right away, and he talked me into. I'd never done any advertising. My dad or I'd never, maybe a charitable, somebody wants you to buy a page in a charity auction thing or whatever, that's fine. But real advertising, John started that for us, and that really helped build our brand. As he said earlier, we had a great product, had a lot of great photos from homes we had built before they were in the business, and a great story to tell. But he came in and told the story. And then with Jeff, when Jeff came in, I never felt like we're as, professional with our project management and organization. It was sort of, we were smaller. I could handle all that myself for the most part. And he brought a professionalism to that. And but the combination of these two helped this company explode.
Yeah, I mean, you've got marketing, you've got organization, and you have experience. That's a pretty potent cocktail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we took a company that had a great reputation for quality and taking care of their clients, which is what Grandpa and Dad did, and basically
that's all we knew how to do.
Exposed it to the world is essentially what happened.
Was your grandpa? How long did John? Because John's senior, right? Because John, you're named after your grandpa.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Gary's middle name is John as well.
Oh, okay.
So.
How long did your dad, Gary, work with you before? Was he around when you guys were part of the company too?
So he passed away Valentine's Day today.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. 2006. Wow, 18 years ago today. I didn't even realize today was the day.
It is the day, yeah.
So that
changed
was
Valentine's Day for me forever.
Yeah, so that was when I was a senior in college. So we always had a great relationship with Grandpa and Grandma, and I never got to work with them.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Interesting. How maybe we'll go into marketing and some of this other stuff, but just because we're on the family, have you guys discussed, how does the next generation, obviously it's you guys, take over? What does that transition look like? And I frame that with, we had a live event last year, and we had some members in the audience that had asked questions to the person I was interviewing. And one of the questions after was, in a very successful business where you have a family legacy, and they had, I assumed they had a number of family members trying to get into this business. How do you navigate that? I mean, it's pretty clear it's the two of you, but have you guys talked about that? What does a roadmap look like that? I think there's a lot of builders that have a lot of family in building, and this is a question that they all sort of navigate. And it seems like, I don't know if you talk to other builders about it. Do you talk to your builder 20 about it? Like, how do you navigate through this?
Dad can kind of talk about the future and stuff like that. A lot of people don't know, Jeff and I also have a brother that's 10 years younger.
I did not know that.
30 years old. He and his wife are both captains in the United States Army and stationed down in right outside Austin, Texas. So we don't know if he'll ever be in the business. He always has a place if he wants to. But he's always really been into military and law enforcement and stuff like that. So I just want to put out there, we do have another brother as well. So, but I don't know if you want to talk about just the future and how we navigate transition and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say that's a work in process, to be honest with you. I mean, we all know that it will happen, and we all know about what the timing will be, and we know about how it will go. But we're just working on formalizing that stuff right now. And one of the parts of the equation I have to figure out first is, when is that, right? Because I'm not 100%. I know that I don't want to work till I'm 80, but 70 doesn't seem that far away. I'll be 66 in April, so. And again, I will probably be like my dad. I'll announce my retirement, and I'll still show up at the office the next day.
Yeah.
And hopefully, they won't change the keys.
Right.
But,
well, the challenging part is we all really like working together.
Yeah.
And Dad loves, I think, you tell other people. Love working with your kids. So, I mean, I could see him keeping an office there for as long as he wants, right?
And the reason I asked the question that way too is because, like to your point, Gary, like you don't know. Like, how do you know when the right time is? And I'm sure you talk to peers or other people that have left. Like, do you regret it? Do you want to get back? And everyone has a different personality, different interests. My dad used to tell me, if you want to have hobbies when you're an old man, have hobbies when you're a young man. And, he had a lot of hobbies and he retired very early. I have a lot of hobbies. I hope to retire early, but who knows? You got to make money before you can retire. But I guess my point is like to your earlier comment that you've never felt like you've worked a day in your life because you love it. And when you do love something and you love being around the people that you're with, like it makes it really rewarding to be there. Like, why would you want to go anywhere? So it's just interesting. It just mainly just seeing kind of like your personality. I don't know you as well as your sons. And so it's mainly just, what makes people tick. It's always kind of interesting to hear how they navigate those steps. And then obviously, I guess you'll know when you know.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of hobbies, honestly. Travel, golf, but you can't do that all day long either. And it's just not interesting enough. So,
Yeah. I mean, we're unique that we're kind of an anomaly almost, but not an anomaly, but unique in the fact that we're a family business that actually likes each other. You hear about so many dysfunctional family businesses and stuff like that. And we're really fortunate that we all get up and go to work every day and we really enjoy working together.
Well, the other thing I'd just like to add too is that they don't need me. They don't. They could run this company probably better without me. That's kind of a joke.
But look at the level ups too, right? I mean, from marketing to operations in the last 16 years, think of how much your company has leveled up, as you've already said, because of your sons and because you've also allowed them. I imagine like any parent, encouraging your kids, kind of allowing them to, kind of rise up and do their own thing, give them a voice, but yet still offer some sort of guidance through that process. I'm not there yet with my kids. I'm sure it's not as easy as it sounds. It's, every day's got to be challenging, but
yeah. Well, the distinct, I guess, blessing that I worked for my father and now my children work for me. So I've seen this from both sides and, I don't really have to overthink it very much. It's, they could run the company just as well, whether I'm here or not here. And, that just makes me feel good to know that. Yet they do like to see me in the office still, and they do bring things to me. And it's
when difficulties do arise. I mean, you have a great relationship. How do you navigate, the process? Let's say you guys disagree on where the ship is heading. Is it usually, where would you see yourself butting heads? Is it operationally? Is it marketing? Is it like, what are some places that you would say, man, I don't agree with you. And then how do you get through that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's interesting because, and again, we have a unique thing here where we all have different skill sets, but we all respect each other and love each other. And one thing that's a constant between all three of us is we all have the exact same sense of humor that we got from him. So I think that's really important. And we're able to get through things a lot easier together. Because we don't always agree on things. We don't always see eye to eye on things, but we always come to a solution. I mean, Jeff, I don't know if you have any examples of what we actually butt heads on, really.
Really don't butt heads on much, but it's really as simple as if there's something that we're all not seeing eye to eye on, it's hey, let's go out to lunch. Let's go sit down for 10 minutes and just figure this out. And it's usually done pretty quick. And so no, it's pretty straightforward. And it's a good thing that we agree on most things, I would say. So that helps.
Both John and Jeff have such different skill sets, yet they're best friends. So that's a very unique situation. And
yeah.
Well, that's really helpful. Well, maybe we'll move on a little bit to just talking a little bit about the company, how it gets run. The goal of every episode is that, those listening, including ourselves, would, be able to get 2 to 3 ideas from each other to sort of, apply to our own business. We'll talk a little bit about marketing. I mean, obviously Minnesota is pretty well celebrated. You guys just won. You're the reigning Builder of the Year. You've won it 5 times.
Yep.
And talk to us a little bit about a marketing point of view. That is really a continuity and really an amazing achievement over, was it 15, 20 years, however long that award has kind of been going on. Gary might know more of the beginnings of that. But how have you leveraged your reputation, as a peer, competitor, and a friend, to you guys and watching what you do in my short career span, you build incredible homes. You have really tight relationships with architects. You're one of the, if not the premier builder in the state, certainly in the top 2 or 3. How is it that you have gotten to that level? And talk to us a little bit about it now looking back, because I imagine not everything, as you mentioned, is intentional. Sometimes I assume it's just one good decision after another. And after doing that for 20 some years, since you guys have joined the team and longer from when you wrote with your dad, it sort of evolved. But just talk to us a little bit about things that you've seen in your own career and how you've sort of leveraged them or have added to kind of your reputation to become who you are today.
You want to take that? I mean, like Dad always says, we've never written a business plan. He didn't have a business plan when he started in 1978, and we still haven't written one. We kind of not fly by the seat of our pants. That's not the right word, but like you kind of said, Mark, you go day by day and it's a series of solid decisions and successes and failures, and you kind of just grow and get better. From there, I think the one constant for the last 46 years is we're very passionate about quality and how we take care of our clients during the process and after the project is over. So I think that's really been a huge success, a big reason for our longevity and how we get the projects that we do. But
I think it's all about taking care of people, just how you take care of them. I make them feel comfortable. There's a stressful deal to build especially in our case, a multi-million-dollar home or multi-million-dollar remodel. That's a stressful time. And we do it professionally and calmly. Our financial process is very professional. And, we just take care of things. Like we don't just, Minnesota has a 1 year warranty on cosmetic things, 2 years on mechanical and 10 years on structural. And, if somebody has a little drywall crack or something in year 2 or 3, we usually just take care of it. We don't send them a bill, and we just take care of things for people. So that gets passed on to their friends, this is how well they've been taken care of. And I think more importantly, as we've grown, we've hired people with that same attitude. People that want to take care of other people. So we've got just an all-star team of employees, and they're all singing from the same hymnal. We don't need to write down a business plan. They all know the drill.
People do you guys have now working with you?
I think total we have 35 employees. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
And comprised, I won't go through all of them, but we have 11 job superintendents, 5 project managers, 3 owners, 2 accountants, laborers, carpenters. So the list goes on.
Gambit.
Yeah, and just even smaller things, like we've put a lot of focus on safety and spent money on safety, where a lot of other builders, the commercial builders all are into it, right? OSHA's watching them closely and with good reason. And we've embraced OSHA. We've embraced, a lot of the standards and things. And I think our employees like that. I think our subcontractors, they all push back against it a little bit because it's more to do. But I think they all understand that we have their best interests at heart. And
it also offers clear guidelines, I would imagine, right? And also because not every builder that's in residential probably does the level of safety protocols that you do as you train your trade partners. And like any of us, you have a very talented, family, a team, but also our trade relationships are vital to any, construction company, right? And so having a good reputation, showing them that you care has got to be, I have to imagine that people are excited to work on the projects that you have for a variety of reasons, both because they're obviously really interesting and creative, but also because they know they've got a team that is going to support them. So, I mean, that is something you can't fake, like a reputation, and we all, you hear grumblings from trade partners. It's a pretty small world. And those that have a pretty, stellar record, if you will, nobody's perfect. And sometimes you have to question like where you're getting your news from. But by and large, you kind of know in a small community, and honestly, Minnesota is a pretty small community. I mean, you kind of know the good ones because a good reputation sort of can transcend some of that.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Northland.
For 19.5 years, I've been building homes, and 95% of all of my homes have used Pella windows. I couldn't be happier to call them a partner in our builds and our remodels. Whether you're an architect, a designer, or a remodeler, I'd highly recommend Pella windows. They can fit old homes, new homes, reclaimed, commercial, and really everything in between. Pella is a company that we trust and that we recommend to our clients. Additionally, in management, Peter and Ed have just been absolute fantastic people to work with, as well as mentors to me personally. So when it comes time to look for a window, I'd highly recommend Pella windows. Find more at PellaNorthland.com. Also, if you're interested, you can hear episode 1 where I interview Peter and Ed together for a great listen on business and Pella windows.
This episode is brought to you by Adaptive, the software for builders that automates draws, budgets, and bookkeeping with AI. For over a year now, I've been partnered with Adaptive, and they've just been an amazing game changer in terms of efficiency in our time and all our bookkeeping. From the time we get an invoice, we import it into their system. The AI codes it, cost codes it, job codes it. All we have to do is review it, pass it through the people internally in the office, all digitally, and then it gets approved and paid all via ACH. It's becoming extremely fast and saving us countless hours a day and a week. When it comes to draws, all of our budgets now are set in Adaptive as well. So now when we cost code against the draws, we can do our change orders, and then with a click of a button, we can submit these draws to our title companies or to our homeowners for faster payment. If you're looking to save time, and if you're looking to be accurate, I highly recommend Adaptive. Additionally, if you'd like to listen to one of their founders share the story of Adaptive, you can listen to episode number 15 on the Curious Builder podcast.
Going back to, even just the 5-time award, what has that meant to you? And I know you're heavily involved with, Minnesota Housing First. Gary, you were president. John and I are both on a number of boards together. Walk us a little bit through what that has done for your career and maybe just some observations of how you've used it to even, help yourself or give back to the community, whichever way it kind of goes.
I have always seen my involvement at Housing First as my way of giving back. But along the way, I've learned quite a bit from the staff there, from the lobbyists, and the advocacy that group does is absolutely incredible. I think like none other in the country.
I mean, it's incredible. They're the oldest in the country, right? Or I should say, like the Parade of Homes just celebrated its 75th anniversary.
Yeah, we invented the Parade of Homes here.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the blueprint for the country. And I agree. I mean, we've taken it for granted, myself growing up, son of a builder, son of a grandpa of another builder. It's like you just think that's normal, but then you go into other communities and like they don't even have a parade of homes. They've never had a parade of homes. It's just kind of interesting how spoiled in some ways we are by the level of excellence that we have. And today, I mean, I don't know if it's ever had stronger leadership than it has right now. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
I think the leadership's incredible. There's a lot of energy around it. They're modernizing basically everything that they do, and I'm just, like my dad said, it's kind of my way of giving back, being involved in our industry. I mean, Housing First is the group that's down at the Capitol lobbying for, things that are important to all of us, builders, remodelers, realtors, everybody, homeowners, yeah. Everybody in this industry. They used to be called the Builders Association of the Twin Cities, and they rebranded to Housing First because they are all things housing. It's not just for the builders. We are a big tent of housing professionals. You mentioned the Builder of the Year award. We're really proud of that. You can only win it every 5 years, as you know, and it's given each year to the builder who best exhibits trust, ethics, and customer satisfaction. So we think those things are all things that our company embodies every day. And so we're really proud of that. You asked how we use it in marketing and stuff like that. And well, you've seen our marketing, but yeah. We use it. We use it in our email signatures, in our print advertising, on our social media. It is. We think it is a powerful message just to get out there that, hey, we've been Builder of the Year, and this is why, because we are the builder that best exhibits
those qualities. How often have you had a client mention it or talk about it in a way that was like, we were considering a few, but like I don't know if you can directly relate it specifically to that, but if you had what do your clients say? What did the architects say that you work with?
About that
Yeah.
award specifically?
Yeah. Or is it just a nice thing to have? I mean, you still have a reputation. In some ways, it's like it's an award for things you've done in the past.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to win, I think it was 2020, 2021. And really, it was funny because I remember at the time thinking like, wow, we have so much more I want to do. And so you're thankful for the acknowledgement of what you've done. But for me, it was sort of like an inspiration of what I wanted to do. I mean, does that kind of resonate with you, or have you had a different experience with kind of what that means for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think people acknowledge it. We've heard, architects say it before, even, when we're interviewing with other clients and stuff like that. This is meet John Kraemer Sons. We recommend them to build your home. They're 5-time builder of the year. Like, so people use that. People do see it. How meaningful it is to one client or the next, I don't know. I think winning it once is great. Winning it multiple times is great. But, having it that we've won 5 times, that's not a trend, or that's not an anomaly. That's, we are consistently over the years, doing the right things that allow us to win that award.
When you're speaking of meeting with clients, how often are the three of you, I mean, you've got a pretty powerful story. When you meet with a client, walk us through a little bit, even like your sales process, like, because I get this, I'm a smaller company. So every client gets to meet me, whether they like it or not. But how often do you guys meet as a team? Walk us through that a little bit. Cause I think sometimes these organizations get pretty big. And so it's just kind of interesting how that all gets conveyed.
For the most part, when we're doing our interviews with new clients, it's almost always the 3 of us. And that is a great, interview process for us, because I think it allows these people to meet the whole team, the guy who started it all and the next generation, and kind of see the whole team. And obviously, even just like in this podcast, we all have different things to offer in this type of setting, or in an interview setting, or when the home's actually being built. And so after, hopefully we're awarded the job, then, we all 3 try to stay involved in the projects. We're out at site meetings the most we can. We're, meeting with the clients on, weekly, monthly site visits and
design meetings before the project starts.
Yeah. Just trying to be as involved as we can. And not at every meeting, but it's as much as we can, for sure. And as much as all 3 of us can do it together, the better. So,
I mean, I have to think that's a pretty powerful, the sales tool when there's 3 people and you're like, this is our family unit. We collectively together are John Kraemer Sons, and we want to build your home. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, sign me up. I don't have the money to build with you guys, but
Well, it is a good story, and you have 3 Kraemers. Our names are on the door. We are the same family business that we have been for 46 years. We haven't reorganized, changed names, gone out of business, nothing like that. So we're just really proud of that. And we do have a very good story to tell. So I do think it is powerful in the sales process.
I noticed on your website, you have an enormous list of referrals, which I really liked. It made me think like, I need to add more than the ones that I have, because it's a long, long list.
Yeah.
In terms of like, you'd mentioned taking care of your clients, which is where I'm kind of going with this, is just loosely, like how many of your builds would be referrals, repeat clients, versus, maybe the more traditional approach, which is, maybe, they're interviewing multiple people. But can you speak to really just the power of how the referrals have helped kind of elevate your brand over the years?
Yeah. I mean, that goes, you guys can jump in, but that goes back a long ways in the history of this company. But I would say over 90% of our business is referrals.
90%.
Yep, for sure.
Wow.
It goes back to that take care of your clients and they'll take care of you, right? It's what I always say. And we give the clients a good process. Like you said earlier, it's not always perfect. We're building homes with human hands, but we give them the best process possible, and we take care of them after their home is done, and we're there for them. And that spreads, right? They tell their family members, their colleagues, their business partners about us. And then when it comes time for them to build, they usually call us. So we do a fair amount of marketing. We do print advertising and social media and stuff, but that is kind of just to keep our brand out there. Print.
I will say though that with the brand out there, when somebody does recommend us to somebody, that person has probably heard of us. So it's maybe a easier recommendation, like, oh, I've heard of them. Yeah, I'm going to give them a call.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And why I was saying this goes back a long time. You heard the evolution of the business with Dad and Grandpa starting framing houses together, doing tile work and electrical work and remodeling homes in Minneapolis and stuff like that. You know, that eventually led to them building their first home on Lake Minnetonka. It was their first project over $1 million, and that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we've built for 3 of the kids and their cabins, and they've referred us to probably 15 different people over the years that we've built homes for. So you do a good job for people and you take care of them, and that's how you're going to grow your business.
How have you handled like service? Like, do you have a dedicated service department? I mean, they just call you and like how does that work? I mean, the reason I ask is I've given it some serious thought about, mainly from another revenue stream. I see other companies that have a service team, and I keep getting close to it and then realize like, oh man, it's a whole nother business. That's a ton of work. But a lot of builders do have, kind of like, I'm going to service only my clients. You have obviously some trim carpenters and some labor on staff that you could maybe do that, but do you have dedicated service professionals, or how have you navigated those waters?
Yeah, I could take that one. So service obviously is super important to us and how we treat clients after the project. And, usually that process goes is, they're reaching out to their project manager, their job soup, within that these warranty windows, right? Of, if things are happening or whatever they need, they're calling their team from the build, right? So they're handling a lot of that stuff. But to your question about long-term maintenance or how we handle that is we do have a separate business. We call it Kraemer Care is the name of the company. And that is sort of what you're talking about. It's a quarterly, biannual, once a year maintenance that we schedule with these clients. And at this point in time, it's just Kraemer Sons clients. We haven't necessarily opened that up to, the whole world necessarily, or the whole, the metro or anything like that. So when we get on the projects, we try to, we introduce our clients to the program, and, if they're interested in doing it, and a lot of them do, a lot of them don't, and that's just fine. And so
and I have to believe that's some sort of a subscription service, or there's a pay for that, right?
Yeah. It's like a pay thing. Then, so that usually that kind of kicks in after you get through that 1 year warranty and stuff, but it's, it's all just the maintenance of changing out filters and, duct cleaning and all the different things that go into managing a house. So really whatever you want it to be is, it's meant to be sort of a concierge service of whatever these clients want, handled on their house, as much or as little.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, it is a whole separate business. It takes a lot of time to manage, and we're really still just developing it ourselves. So,
yeah. Who runs it now? Is that you, Jeff? Do you run that department, or?
Yeah, kind of me. Yeah. So it's me, and then we have a couple of our carpenters that are the guys that go out there and do the work at the site, and then obviously some subcontractor work as well. So just I'm the one doing more of the scheduling and getting those guys scheduled.
I mean, that's what's actually stopped me from doing it is the amount of scheduling and the small stuff, and it's like, how do you ever bill hourly? But, obviously the size of homes that you're doing, I assume, I've talked to another builder that, built up north, and they did a lot of stuff, where people were gone seasonally, winterizing, they had copies of their keys. I mean, this concierge service is not a new concept, but executing it professionally is not for the faint of heart or unorganized. Like it takes some serious, it's a whole nother business. That's why I ask. Cause I'm like, we're such a smaller company. I'm like, man, do I really, do I go get all my clients to then subscribe to it and then build a team to support it? Or do I see a lot of value to it, but again, we all have a finite amount of time, and it's really, that's my own personal dilemma. That's why I'm asking specifically, is like, what's worked for you? And I see the advantage of it, of course. Taking care of your clients, who doesn't want to do that? It's no different than the medical system, right? Which fails a lot. But you have the doctor, you have nurses, you have the staff. All of that is for patient care, right? And so, I would say in many ways, like health departments, building a home is, because it's so intimate and you're in people's lives, it is held to a very high standard that we try the best we can. But to your point, John, we're still humans with human hands, and it's, you do the best you can. And as long as I think the intention and the effort behind it is there, people usually have a lot of grace too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But also being known for quality, being known for service is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because I think there's times that we're held to a higher standard. by our clients as well. So we try to try to hit those marks.
I've had that weaponized against me before. In fact, actually, I'm just thinking of it now. I've had the Builder of the Year award used against me before in a negative connotation, where they're like, well, surely someone who would win Builder of the Year would do this, that, and another thing. And you're like, but they're weaponizing it in a negative way. But to your point, you're held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And so, that there's always a flip side to the pro, and there are some cons and I'll take those cons all day long because, it's just part of, having a target on your back for excellence, I guess.
Yeah. And we should be held to a higher standard because of the work that we do. But I mean, I think the difference between us and some builders is if there's issues, we actually take care of it. I think a lot of
that's the way to stay ahead.
I think a lot of people out there just run from service and that's going to cost me money and stuff like that, where we feel like that's our next project.
It's an opportunity.
That's our next project coming from that client. So,
yeah. How have you handled, and John, you and I talked a little bit about this earlier in the week offline. So a lot of the people that have come on the podcast, especially ones that we've interviewed outside the state of Minnesota, are in Builder 20 groups. And I'm really enthralled with, I'm actually going to do my first Builder 20 interview here in a couple months after the Builder Show. But I was surprised to hear that you guys are not in a Builder 20. Have you considered it? Why do you not do it? And how do you get peer review to keep growing? You've obviously built a very successful business. How is it that you get, is it consultants? Is it other peers that are just kind of more of a private nature? But walk us through that, because a lot of people have found a lot of value in that system, but it doesn't seem like that's a stream that you've taken at this point.
We haven't. I don't know, Dad. I mean, you've been doing it for a lot longer than us. Have you had the opportunity to be involved with the Builder 20 group and you've decided not to do it, or you've certainly heard of them and probably been invited to them before too?
I've heard of them. I think they're effective. I know they've done really good things for a lot of people. It was just never my deal. I didn't want to take the time to do that, share that kind of stuff. Not that I had anything to hide or whatnot, but it's just never been my style.
Yeah, well, and I can appreciate that. I mean, people have different natures, I think, I mean, for myself, I think even the podcast, right? I don't have an issue because I talk like this all the time. So sometimes people say, well, you're worried about, recording your voice and all that stuff. You're like, no, I talk to John and like this anyway. And I think respecting your nature, like if you're of more private nature, like owning that, I think that's great. I wanted to ask the question because I found so much value in peer, and John's been great. I talk probably more to John than I do with Jeff, but sometimes you're struggling with something. You're like, hey, what about this? And John, you've always been great. You're like, yeah, this is how I do it, or this. And I think, and maybe it's a generational thing, because my dad didn't do a Builder 20. I don't even know if you knew what a Builder 20 was. Yeah. But I think it might be a generational thing too, that I think the younger generations are more apt, and probably because of Instagram and social media and just everything, like there's really nothing that's hidden. So why not just share and kind of raise everything up? So it'll be interesting to see kind of as the future evolves, what value you guys even find in it.
Yeah, no, I don't know about, I won't speak for Jeff, but I mean, I can see myself being interested in it someday because, yeah, I'm millennial generation, old millennial. I call myself a zennial, which you would be too, right?
Yeah.
43.
Yeah.
But I mean, sharing information and learning from other like-minded people and people in the industry, I think it can't hurt, right? But, you're talking about this generation and social media and the amount of information out there. One example would be like, remember back in the day with like artisan home tour, luxury home tour, stuff like that, no pictures allowed. And
I know it seems so crazy.
Now it's like, yeah, come on in, bring your video camera.
To be fair, it was
we're posing for him now.
Yeah, to be fair, I thought that was crazy even when it happened. Yeah. I remember I was like, because that was, Artisan's been around 11 years, 12
yeah,
years?
Something like that.
But even in general, I mean, your young brand, internet's out there, and I'm just not someone that's real private anyway. But I remember, actually, this is years ago, my mom was an interior designer, and she went into, I won't say the builder's name, but they went into a builder's home, and this was back way before internet, and she just had her camera, and she just liked to take pictures of people's homes, and then she'd look at it, and this builder tried to take her camera and tried to break it. Yeah. She actually had to report him to the Builders Association, and they said, don't worry, Mrs. Williams, we'll take care of this. He has a reputation of going after photographers. And it's just hilarious. I'm thinking like my mom is like the most innocent, like, like what in the world, like, what are you afraid of exactly?
Yeah.
And so I think when people start understanding, like, and to your opposite point now, where it's like, no, you invite people, like, please, not only do I want you to take photo and video, but I want you to post it as much as possible because it can only help your brand.
Don't forget to tag us.
Yeah, don't forget to tag us or we'll find you.
Yeah. But I still remember, this is probably 8, 9, 10 years ago. Another builder called me, and we were, there was a website that was becoming popular where you could post your photos and answer questions and stuff like that. And I had another builder appear, call and say, why are you doing that? Why are you on it? Tell me the benefit of it. Aren't you like giving away your trade secrets? And I'm like, no. I mean, it's no different than having somebody being on your website, but now you get to actually interact with people, answer questions for them, ask them questions. They can, learn more about your business, and you can actually interact with these people rather than them just looking at your website. So it's a generational thing probably. But
how have you viewed, so I'll maybe ask you this question after I tell you what you told me, I think 5, 6 years ago. I don't know if you remember this conversation. I called you and Instagram was just becoming kind of its thing. And I remember asking you about how often do you post on Instagram? What's your thoughts on it? Do you remember what you told me?
I don't get me in trouble.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just curious if you'd said it to a lot of people or just me. No,
well, it'll ring a bell.
No,
for sure.
it's really good advice. You told me at that time, and Instagram has changed a lot in the last 5 years, but at that time you said that is going to be my client 5 years from now.
Right.
I've repeated that a lot. I think it's really great future looking advice. And now it's a lot different. Now it's your client right now. I personally have not gotten clients directly from Instagram today, but I talk, like, for instance, we had Katie and Jesse Cath on from JCath. She gets 100% of her clients off of Instagram.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep.
And anyway, the point is, you were right. I mean, ultimately, the people that were consuming that content were in their late 20s and early 30s. And now 5 years later, they're in mid 30s, early 40s. And now they're entering kind of the time to, build that family home or whatever it is. Speak to us a little bit about some of your marketing strategies. Like, which ones do you find, even though you get 90% are, I guess, referrals, maybe you don't need even to do it. But, where do you find the most interaction from clients in a way that actually leads to meaningful business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, obviously doing a good job for people and referrals. That's still our number one. Networking and having good relationships with architects, with the design community, and interior designers and architects. And then from a social media perspective, I would say it's probably Instagram. Everything's so muddy out there with all the messaging we get every day. I mean, you sit on the couch and send reels back and forth. My wife and I sit on the couch and send reels back and forth to each other. I mean, you're seeing so many messages every single day. So it's crazy. There's just so much out there. But I would say Instagram. I would say Facebook pages. Facebook is kind of the older demographic, which is a lot of our clients, which is great. I've found that Facebook's spam filters are challenging. Facebook's kind of annoying to me, honestly, but Instagram is really good to be able to post and interact and share what other people are posting about you. And then in terms of print advertising is one of the least forms of media that are measurable. It's measurable if somebody comes in and has your ad in a magazine and says, "Look, I found you in this magazine."
That's happened once.
Yeah, it's happened more than that. But yeah, two, three times throughout the years. But it's really for us, keeping your brand out there. We focus on quarterly publications that are high quality and centered around homes and design and fashion and stuff like that, stuff our clients like.
I think it speaks a little bit to Gary's point where you were getting referral, but the people already knew who you were. I think that speaks a little bit to the branding. I think it's so hard to find your exact ROI on a specific magazine or event. It's kind of like all of it is your brand and how you represent both yourself in public, networking events. It kind of all goes together.
Yeah. I think a challenge with social media too is how often to post, because like I said, there's so much messaging out there. I mean, you could post something every single day, and some companies do, some of our peers do. And we kind of try to toe that line of having ourselves out there, but not bombarding our followers and bugging our clients. Yep. So that's why we don't post as much as
I think I've noticed something too about your feed in particular. I feel like you do a really good, and I'm guessing it's intentional, that you focus mostly on the build and the architecture. Not that you don't celebrate your people, obviously you do in person, but I feel like your feed is mostly based on the beautiful homes that you build. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's
intentional.
Yeah, it is intentional. It's accurate. It's a real cool twilight photo of a home we built on Lake Minnetonka, right? People like that. It's eye candy. They save it. It gets people talking about it. So we really do celebrate the exterior and interior architecture a lot. And always, you mentioned our teammates. We always are very intentional about crediting all of the teammates on our projects: architect, designers, landscape architects, photographers, everything. And then they share it on their pages. And so
now you guys have done, I know it's just because we're recording here in Excelsior, and you guys have, your development side down the road, and that's another podcast episode all by itself, I'm guessing. But, early on, you and your dad, Gary, were doing, bathroom remodels, new homes, remodel, the whole gambit to what you are today. I've seen you guys do some condo complexes. I don't know if you guys have done any sort of development. I don't know where the family is on the Hackamore Brewery. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about some of the other things that, where you go with your talents and what has sort of attracted you into, are you doing more development? Is that just a right opportunity seizes itself, so you take it? Walk us through how you incorporate that into your business strategy.
I'll let you take this, but again, really no business plan. We kind of just walk into opportunities and decide if it's a good opportunity or not.
Yeah, we have not done much development at all. Did a great condo development in Wayzata, and started it on one here in Excelsior that doesn't look like it's probably going to fly. But, we pretty much just stuck to we're a construction company. And that's what we do. And we haven't gotten into the architecture side of things or interior designers on staff or that type of thing. We like to work with a lot of professionals, which it's more collaborative. For our clients, it's a better way to serve them. And everything doesn't look the same. You go to our website and everything looks different. There's no real pattern to what our houses look like. So.
You asked about Hackamore Brewing. I mean, I'll touch on that real quick. That probably comes back to more of what we talked about earlier, my entrepreneurial side. I like businesses, love our family business. That was just an opportunity that I had with some buddies to invest in something other than the family business. And it's been really fun. Been open for, in April, it'll be a year already.
That's in Chanhassen?
It's in Chan. Right. Yeah. It's going great.
Yeah. How outside of work? I mean, I know Gary likes to travel and golf. Jeff, I've seen you hit some pretty long balls at the at the golf opens. But what do you guys like to do when you're not building?
I mean, my biggest thing for hobbies is golf, for sports, and then my most recent hobby in the last handful of years has been being a taxi service for my kids to sports. So
you should just stop with kids. Be like, I'm an Uber driver, and then like, what's your handle? You're like, it's just for my kids, actually.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
It's been an absolute blast. I have a 10-year-old boy and a 7-year-old daughter, and so just the last few years getting into more of the competitive type sports. So son's playing baseball and hockey, daughter's playing soccer, dance, basketball. So just running every night. But we're having an absolute blast, and the kids are having fun. They love the sports and activities, and try to golf as much as I can in the summer. Yeah. So
Jeff and I are leading pretty similar family lives. I have a boy and a girl as well, 13-year-old daughter. So, that's great. Going through puberty, middle school. Today's Valentine's Day. She made a Valentine for a crush that she has. So,
oh boy. Isn't she grounded till she's 30? That's what I did to my daughter. She's grounded till she's 30.
I'm eager to go home and see how that exchange went today. And then my son will be 10 next month. And he's competitive travel baseball, squirt hockey. Mallory, my daughter, is horse riding. Well, I tell everyone, if you want to save money, don't let your daughter or kid get into horse riding. That's crazy. And she's also a competitive gymnast 3 days a week as well. But hobbies, I like to golf. I'm not as good as Jeff. I hit the ball really far, but
Just not down the right fairway.
yeah, that's about it. And then I'm just kind of a dork when I still collect baseball cards.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
I did a lot. I have, it was funny because someone just sent me, you talked about Instagram, someone sent me yesterday, I was a big Ken Griffey Jr. Guy. I mean, I must have 100 Ken Griffey Jr. cards, but I probably haven't saved baseball cards probably since I was like 12. So yeah, not anything current. So are you, like, how active are you?
Yeah, active. I just, I work a lot and do family stuff a lot, and kind of just decided I needed something else to do just as a hobby. But no, we open packs with my son, buy graded cards of players that I like, and keep them in my office.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Fun.
How about you, Gary?
Baseball cards?
Yeah, baseball cards are mostly just traveling. Where do you like to travel?
Mostly
so you mentioned
travel.
you like travel.
All over. I like this time of year. I like going to warm places.
Well, Minnesota's pretty warm.
But
This
I had a lot of fun. Italy, France, Great Britain. Haven't hit Australia or Africa yet, but those are on the bucket list. So,
did you travel with the kids when they were little? Was that something that you sort of instilled as a family, or no?
we traveled some, but in the summers, all three sons played competitive travel baseball. So we actually did a fair amount of travel with that in itself. But yeah, these guys too are really good traveling with their kids. John didn't mention that, but they go on a really cool family vacation every year that I'm actually kind of jealous of that I didn't do that with you. I feel like a bad father.
Do you get invited?
No.
We do a family road trip every summer, and our kind of, and this is really my wife, because she always says, you only have so many summers with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been really big on this. This summer will be our 5th family road trip that we've done.
That's awesome.
And you usually go somewhere for 10 days and drive around and hit several states and national parks.
What age did you start doing that at?
So what age was I?
No,
or
the kids. The kids.
So we started 5 years ago. So Mallory would have been 8 and Sam would have been 4, 5.
The reason I bring it up is you guys know Stephen Yock.
Yeah.
And so he told me something recently that, and I forget when he said he did it. I think maybe when his kids are in middle school or high school, but they stopped kind of doing the whole Christmas exchange deal. And even today now, his kids are all grown up, late 20s, early 30s. And rather than exchanging gifts, they set a family budget. And then his boys planned their like a 2-week or 10-day trip right after Christmas. And that's their family time. And they're still doing it together. They just went to Norway this last deal. And so it reminded me, and like the kids are long and I do like doing gifts, but it reminded me a lot because we traveled a lot with our parents my parents when I was a kid. And so just something I want to instill with them. And they're now, my littlest just turns 4 tomorrow actually. And so they're still a little bit early that, man, being in a car for a long periods of time is not something I probably want to do, but they're not too far away from it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming on. If those people listening want to reach out to you and know more about you, where would you like them to go?
Yeah. Well, our website is www.jkandsons. That's jkandsons.com. That's the best way to see the projects that we do, learn about our business, our staff, and reach out to us if they need anything at all.
Sounds great. We'll have everything tagged in the show notes. And thanks again for coming on, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like what you listen to, please give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It really means a lot. It's a great way for us to just understand what you like about the podcast and what we can keep doing. So like and review, and please share with your friends and family. Find out more at curiousbuilderpodcast.com.